Hello and welcome to Filmi Ladies. Pitu and Beth are here to talk about another anniversary film. This time it's Main Hoon Na that is turning 20 years old.
Wow.
This film is as old as Sanjana and Lucky and Percy and Vivek and all the others. I cannot believe it. Uh, I have a short question and a long question for Pitu. Short question. Did it hold up?
It did. I was shook. And not only did it really hold up and I enjoyed it tremendously, I
Hmm.
had a newfound appreciation for Zayed Khan. And then that sent me off on like a weird, like navel gazing trip where I was kind of like, have I been too hard on Zayed Khan in the past? Because I always thought he was like so terrible. And then
Hmm.
I came to the conclusion that he is in fact extremely terrible, but he is excellent in Mehuna,
Okay.
and this is all he's excellent in.
Okay.
So I can still very much enjoy him as Lucky,
Okay.
while still not appreciating him other things. But I really, really enjoyed the heck
Yeah.
out of him every time he was on screen. So
Yeah.
yes, it's up for me. What about you?
Yeah, it did for me too. Although I have to say, I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. A lot. It's a favorite, but it's been a while. And upon rewatching, I feel like this is nobody's best work in the film, except maybe him and
Yeah,
Farah Khan. I think as a
yeah.
director, this is her top for me.
Hmm.
Um, Although it's been a while since I rewatched Om Shanti Om as well. But I just think
That
this
would be
film
my
is
number one.
so, so funny.
Yeah,
Um, and it balances all its threads really well. But looking at, like Shahrukh, this is not his very finest. I don't think we can get into some of that if we want to. And maybe it's a
yeah,
lot of the background of the I'm sorry, of the behind the scenes people. Maybe it's their finest. Thank goodness they are named in the credits. That doesn't mean I know who they all are, but like I think that's great. But so in some ways this was a little not as good as I remember, but it's still plenty good. So no, I'm not sad we're talking about it. I'm not annoyed that it exists. This is a rollicking good time to me. My longer question for you is um kind of what do you think the impact of this film has been? And I was asking myself this too, and I don't really know other than it launched Farah as a director.
I don't know if it had a lot of cultural impact beyond the entire country swooning over Sushmita Sen in all those amazing chiffon sarees
Fair
and
enough.
everybody wishing they had a chemistry teacher like her. I did not. My chemistry teacher was very mean. Um, but I think the one thing it did is it sort of to some extent brought masala comedies back. And Farah
Mm,
Khan does masala really well. She clearly also has a deep love and appreciation for the 70s, like yourself,
yes,
um,
yes, she
because
does.
this movie references the 70s, Om Shanti Om references the 70s. And so it perhaps maybe brought in a little bit of that like retro-ness. Like I know that her brief to Anu Malik, who's given the music in this movie, was that she really wanted him to sort of channel that 70s R.D. Burman vibe. And
Mm,
I feel like to a large extent he did a good job with like channeling that, but also not copying it and
mhm.
making it his own. And then even with like the fashions and everything. And then you kind of see a lot of that again in Om Shanti Om as well.
Yeah.
So I guess if I had to say if it had any cultural impact, I would say that it sort of made it more fun for people to kind of do these throwback 70s
Mm,
vibing, vintagey inspired retro kind of movies set in present times.
yeah.
But other than that, I'm not sure it's had like a particularly lasting impact. Like I know you're not like the biggest fan of like DDLJ, but I would say DDLJ was definitely a huge
Oh,
trendsetter,
sure, of course,
or
of
Hum
course.
Aapke Kaun, which neither of us a fan of, but that
Yeah,
that had a tremendous
of
cultural
course.
impact. Mehuna,
Yeah,
I think, is a lot sort of like it's lighter fare.
yeah.
It's more popcorny, and so I think it doesn't necessarily. I think K3G had a lot of cultural impact as well. What
Mm.
about for you?
Yeah, I can't say that I really feel it had much um impact, at least not that could not perhaps also be assigned to some other films. So like
Yeah,
college films, well, those already existed. There were a lot of them. Um, he's not exactly a spy, but he's an undercover agent of some kind, right? So like those
yeah,
already existed.
yeah,
Kind of dual plot love interest movies, those exist. a movie with a makeover, those exist.
Yeah. Found families, which is one of my favorite
Found
genres of film.
families.
Yeah.
India, Pakistan getting along
Yes.
better. This movie would
Mhm.
not be made today, clearly,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but I think that's handled really beautifully in this film.
Yeah.
Actually, I was surprised at how interested I was in that plot because in my head, I'm mostly in it for the school stuff, but I was
Yeah.
actually very
Same.
impressed by how that was handled. Um, but I think it just takes each of those things and does them well to very well, uh,
Yeah.
which is pretty exciting because things like a makeover can be really annoying and silly. But in this one, we actually have Sanjana says, she does her makeover for like a day, and then she's like, I think he's just noticing my clothes, and she comes back to a
Yeah.
middle ground, which is remarkable, and which I feel like, off the top of my head anyway, I can't name another film that does that. So, there are a lot of little points in this that Farah and the other writers do really good things with that maybe in other films wouldn't have had that level of care attended to them.
Yeah.
Um, but in general, I think it's just really fun. And if its main contribution is it set her up as a director, then that's plenty. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I agree with your point about Sanjana's makeover because, in particular, I know that that's a gripe that many people, including myself, have about
yeah,
Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, where it's
yeah,
like, oh, now that she's wearing a sari and she's no longer a tomboy,
yeah.
she's attractive. So I like that. The other thing that really surprised me was that, Shahrukh's like wooing of Sushmita could have seemed very, very cringy. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like stalker level, but it's definitely a little bit questionable. And I like the way that it was treated, where it didn't make me go, "Ugh, can you not?" I
It's
also like
close, right? There are
it's very
moments where you're like, she thinks you're her student. And
yeah,
she says so at least once, I
yeah.
think maybe more than once. But yeah, so
But
that was kind of like right on the line, but then
yeah,
they resolve
it
it
could very
nicely.
easily have gone into
Hmm.
cringe territory, and then I
Hmm.
love that scene where she's kind of, like, seducing him
Yeah.
after the big fight sequence, and she
Yeah.
mentions, "You're not my student, right?" And he's like, "No," and she's like, "You're in the army, right?" And he's like, "Yes," and she's like, "Okay, so great." So I love that. I love that she was just sort of, like, taking charge of the situation, and she
Yeah.
was like, "Alright, now I'm going to show you who I really am." I love that. There was also, like, one tiny little like throwaway scene after that song. I think it's after that Gori Gori song
Mm.
where she's gonna leave, and Sunil Shetty says to her, "Oh, you should get Shahrukh's character to drop you home," and she literally says, "I'm a big girl. I can go home
Yeah.
by myself. I'll just
Yeah.
drive my car home." It's such a tiny little line,
Yeah.
but like. I love her character in this movie. She's no like damsel in distress.
No.
She's a grown ass woman. She's a teacher. She's independent, and it, it was just so refreshing. Like I want to be her friend.
Yeah.
She was just lovely, and
Yeah.
her chemistry with Shahrukh was also great. So I
Really
was
good.
surprised that for a 2004 movie, it held up very well in terms
Hmm.
of, things like that, which
Hmm.
sometimes can be very icky.
Hmm. Hmm. I agree. What did you think of Sunil Shetty? Because on this rewatch, I had remembered enjoying him relatively in this film. I have seen very little of his work. I think I might speak Hindi better than he does. Like,
I'm
it
pretty
was
sure you
pretty
emote better than
painful.
him. Pretty
Yeah,
sure you dance better than
it was
him.
painful this time.
Did you not enjoy his light blue contact lenses, Beth?
Those were hilarious. I'm always for that. And of course, the whole, Rom doesn't recognize him despite the eyes.
um,
But yeah,
I mean, he's pretty terrible, but
yeah,
honestly, Sunil Shetty has never not been terrible. I have seen a fair bit of Sunil
mm,
Shetty films, not by choice, but
sure.
because back when we didn't really have like cable in India, and you could turn on the TV and whatever was on TV, you watched it or you didn't. I've seen a lot of Sunil Shetty's films from that era when he was like paired with Mamta Kulkarni, or it was
Mm,
not quite B grade movies, but also not like the big banners,
yeah.
and he was pretty terrible in all of them. Um, so it didn't surprise me that he was so awful. However, can I just say I was squealing every time our Kabir Bedi came on screen.
So good.
so
I mean, so
handsome.
so so perfectly fine for that role. I can't say he blew me away, but I was very pleased that he's there. And the fact that when he and Nasser are together, you're like, yeah, this feels right. Like I love the
So
cementing of this
good.
film and these like the three older generations. Bowman Irani, I don't count as an older generation simply because he was a new star at that time. But
Yeah.
with Bindu,
Also, if
Nasser,
I'm
and
not,
Nasser, you're like, I'm in good hands here.
yeah. Also, if I'm not wrong, I think Baman Irani is the same age as Amir Khan.
Well, that would
I
make him
think
all
he
the
really
same age as all
is.
the cons because they were all born in the same year. I'm
Yeah.
gonna look this up while we're chatting because
I'm
that
I'm pretty
blows me away.
sure I'm pretty sure Baman Irani has is the same age as,
He
is he not?
he's 6 years older than the cons,
Okay,
but
okay.
that's closer than I thought.
But it's, yeah, it's not like he's not like
Not
15
a
years
different
older than them
generation
or
or
anything.
anything. No.
Yeah.
No.
But he frequently plays like their dad or uncle
Yeah.
level of a person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also actually really enjoyed Karan Kher, which is not a statement I make
Yes.
often.
Yes.
She was restrained and she was lovely and she was darling, and I loved her chemistry with Shahrukh. But I have a soft spot for Shahrukh with like
And his
any sort of
mother.
parental figures.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
I liked her connection with I mean, I thought she and Lucky, I thought they
Yeah.
were a pretty good mom-son duo given how he is characterized in particular.
Yeah.
She too was not she's, devoted uh estranged wife, but of course won't divorce him and
Hmm.
she's got some of the conservative baggage, but I thought she handled
Yeah.
it quite lightly and is fairly
Yeah.
likable. So maybe this is in fact her best film.
It actually might be, because I thought, I mean, Devdas, like Bansali's Devdas is one of the most insufferable films I've ever seen. And she ranks up there with like the
Mhm.
insufferability quotient. Like she's so horrific in that movie. So I was like, when she actually came on screen, I was like, oh, but she was actually
She's
fine.
good. Mhm.
Yeah. And did you know, I was reading trivia. Apparently, Farah Khan wanted Nasir to do, I think, Sunil Shetty's role or something, but he couldn't do it because he could not give that many dates. So he just did the itty bitty role.
It's been fun too.
Yeah. I also feel like this is maybe the second movie I've seen in which Nasir has a same plot like Masoom, where it's like he stepped out of his marriage and he had like a son, and his wife doesn't know about it, and now he's trying to reconcile those things, and his wife is like, no, get lost, and but I thought he was really lovely in
Yeah,
this
he's
movie, and
he's
not like
good.
hammy or
I
anything.
really
Yeah.
enjoy when he does masala. I haven't seen that much of it, but I think again, not a surprise. He knows what he's doing. This
Yes.
because this is not his apparent preferred genre, type,
Yeah.
genre, mode, whatever, doesn't mean he can't do it. And I thought he did it perfectly.
Yeah. Let's talk about Zayed Khan, who hilariously was called by his uncle Feroz Khan the most handsome man in Bollywood, which made me laugh because I was like, clearly you are blind. Because have you seen Hrithik Roshan?
Right. Right.
Uh,
I have no issue with Zayed Khan. I haven't seen much of his stuff. This is by far my dominant impression of him.
yeah.
I think there are a couple of moments where I thought, "Ooh, kind of wish they'd given you another take through that."
Okay.
I think he's totally fine. He's
Yeah.
the right age for this. Like, I think he sort of physically inhabited the role really well. Like his sort of gangliness and whatever was
Yeah.
offset really well by other people. I believed I thought he was good at kind of flirting with Micro Mini and
Yeah.
also keeping Sanju kind of on the hook. And, I feel like we've all met that guy. And I thought he did a really nice job. The one thing I will say is not, and this is not his fault, is writing it so that the army lets him onto the helicopter at the end and lets him dangle
Oh,
out of it to save a major in the Indian army was several steps beyond belief, even for me, but it's
yeah.
also so near the end. It's like, whatever, let's just get it. Like, I
Yeah.
wish kind of maybe Lucky had somehow gotten up onto the roof another way, or I don't know, something. Like, I understand that it's bookending what happened earlier and but that was a shade too far for me somehow.
Yeah. You're like, Beth is like, I love Nagin movies. I'm all here for those. I love shapeshifters. I love all the revenge sagas. I love the reincarnation plots. But this is a shade too far.
Well, it's because some things exist sort of in this zone of
Yeah.
fable, and this doesn't fully
Yeah.
inhabit that. It's kind of got a foot in both maybe
Yeah,
I think now that I'm thinking about this and while I'm talking instead of thinking of it before, like maybe you can make an argument that it's got a foot in both kind of
right.
fable and real, aided of course by Ram and Lakshman and
Yeah.
whatever else. So maybe that's how I'm supposed to see it, especially with all the imagined sequences that happened.
Yeah.
And it's almost like this is what Lucky imagines he will do, but it's depicted as what did actually
He
happen.
did
And
do.
now that
Yeah.
I've said this, I really wish that had been his imagination sequence. And he
Oh,
just like
yeah.
then like steps up and does some other useful, but to scale thing that is nice
Yeah.
at the end, and or like he goes and finds someone who's helpful or I don't know something, and
Right.
then is there to give his brother a big hug or something, like
Yeah.
it could have been other things, but minor nitpick. But yeah,
Yeah.
overall, no issue with Zayed Khan in this film for anything
Yeah.
that's actually his fault.
I just thought he was very likable. And it was funny
Mhm.
because he is such a manic pixie dream boy in this, like such a manic pixie dream boy. And
Mm.
usually I find those very, very irritating. But I think Zayed's likability, he's very sort of amiable. He has this big goofy grin on his face.
Yeah,
There's just something about his
yeah.
like body language and his charm that sort of like won me over, where I think he could have been irritating very easily, but he wasn't.
I think something that's really smart about his characterization, both in the writing and I think probably in how it was played by him and then also the people relating or reacting to him, is that the school obviously loves Lucky and all the
Yeah,
kids think he's cool, but they also know his limitations and they know he doesn't apply himself and should not be trusted with any kind of schoolwork and has chosen to be a dum-dum. And
yeah,
I like that. So they're not saying he's the best at everything ever. And there's obviously Vivek who can beat him at arm wrestling and he's not the best athlete. Like he's cool, but he's not the student of the year boys, for example.
right.
And I like that. I think that was
Although
smart.
I feel like Lucky would be great at a treasure hunt.
Lucky probably would be good in a treasure hunt. Lucky is going to be, did you ever have these things in school where the teacher would give you a really long worksheet with all these different things you had to do on it, and the last step said, don't do any of these things. Good for you for reading the directions before starting. Oh,
No.
we had those kinds of tricks sometimes. And your friend
Mm.
Beth usually did read the directions all the way through. So I did not do them. But I feel like Lucky would be the kind of person who would like accidentally do that because he would be trying to shortcut, but then would realize that he wasn't supposed to do any of these things. And he'd just be sitting
Yeah.
there with his Pepsi and his Pizza Hut and his cafe coffee day,
Yeah.
enjoying the sponsored snack break while everyone else is working really hard. So I think
Exactly.
he would stumble into the right thing from time to time.
Yeah, I think so. I did like that bit where he actually accidentally does the homework, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you are actually
Yeah.
smart, and you do apply yourself.
Yeah.
You just don't want to
And
graduate
then
for
he
whatever reason."
chose, and then he chose to keep doing it because it was satisfying to him, which is kind of great. And that's a nice depiction of when you realize you can do a thing.
Yeah,
That's nice.
exactly.
Yeah.
What did you think of Amrita Rao's character, Sanjana?
Uh, well, let's just acknowledge the Christina Aguilera dirty phase. I actually just rewatched that video
Yes.
before hitting record because it'd been so long since I saw it. And I was like, that is a direct lift. It's so funny. Whatever they've got in her hair, I just like I want to touch it to see what it feels like, but then I don't because it's clearly
It's probably crunchy.
disgusting. It's like either really greasy or really
Yeah.
crunchy, like little um
Do you think it's
eh,
her real hair? I was wondering if it was a wig.
I don't know. I can believe it's a wig.
Because
Um,
Zayed's hair was also very crunchy looking.
very crunchy, very
Yeah.
crunchy. I think there was a wig involved there too, I would assume.
Mm.
Which I think the bandana kind of helps cover for part of the time, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought again, I think she's good in this. She's not someone I have strong feelings about. I have noticed her absence lately. Like she's one of those, oh, where'd they go? But I don't actually
Yeah.
care. But I think she's good. She maybe is a little overdoing it on the poor me, daughter of an army general things a little
Yeah.
bit. But I also thought that they wrote that fairly well because her saying like he wanted a boy, so here I am, and now no one sees me at all. And like when you are, how old is she supposed to be? 22 or something, 21, 22,
She hasn't
something like that.
graduated yet, so she would be 20, I think.
I feel like at 20, a lot of people are probably still reckoning with this kind of like, what does approval from other people mean to my identity and my sense of self and stuff like that. So I thought that
Yeah.
was well done. And the fact that we have the high school kids, but then we have some people, college kids, sorry, but then people older than they are who are also key to the plot means that the high school, keep calling them high school kids because they're acting kind of like high school kids. They don't, the sort of grandeur that is applied to the young people plot is limited. And I think that's
Mm,
nice. It kind of keeps it in relative to where it should be in life. Like there's an army guy trying to defeat a terrorist here. Like your problems are
right.
yours, but they're not as important in the bigger scheme of things as Project Malap, for
Right.
example.
I actually think that they're high school. So in India, for college, we have this thing called junior college, right? Junior college is what is 11th and 12th.
Okay.
So after your 10th grade, which is the boards, you give the boards. And then
Mm,
there's 11th and 12th, which is called college, but it's also called junior college. That's actually more like high school over here. And
okay.
then you have your 3 year degree or you have your 4 year degree, depending on what you chose.
At a
Right. So I
university.
think that they are technically in junior college,
Okay.
which is, depending on your perspective, 11th or 12th, like last 2 years of school, or first 2 years of college. It's sort of this like amorphous thing where there's some
Mm,
school, like my school was kindergarten to 12th. So we just called it school because it was 11th and 12th, and there was no college. But in
mm,
India, there's schools that directly feed into their own college. And
okay.
over there, the 11th and 12th is called junior college to differentiate the school kids from the college kids. So I'm actually not 100% sure what these kids are. Are
They're
they 11th?
20-ish, right?
Yeah, let's say 20-ish. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I thought she's cute. And I know we'll get to the songs. I love her intro song. I have always loved
Yeah.
this song. It's sung by Vasundhara Das, who's one of might even be my favorite film singer. I know that's a very
Mhm.
unusual opinion. I just really love her voice. And of course, she's so good at Monsoon Wedding.
Yes.
I love her. Um, do I buy that kind of slightly goth, slightly Christina Aguilera young women would be singing about bumblebees and stuff? I do not at
Right.
all, even bearing in mind that there's poetic traditions here that I'm not familiar with. But but there's something about that song. It's so like melodically, it's so cheerful to me. It gets stuck in my head
It's so
forever. The little
infectious.
like arm
Yeah.
swooping dance, I think, is really cute. The way they pan across all those kids in the
Yeah.
courtyard is very satisfying. The fact that they're outside in this beautiful setting. This is maybe my major complaint about this film is you're in
Mm.
Darjeeling, but you can barely tell you're in Darjeeling. More
Yeah.
Darjeeling, more,
Yeah.
because it's so beautiful. But even when you do get to see the mountains, it's obviously breathtaking. Like, so there's just something about that goofy song that I love.
Do you know it's a one take song? They shot that entire thing
Yeah,
in one take. Yeah. And
it's
you can tell
amazing.
it's so organic.
Hmm.
And I was really
Hmm.
paying attention to all the steps in all the songs of this movie
Yeah,
because hello, it's Farah Khan.
yeah.
And I loved it. Like all the steps were so like youthful
Hmm.
and just like cheery, except for of course Tumhe Jo Maine Dekha, the seductive
Yeah.
number between the two of them. But yeah, that was really cute as well. um what did you think of Sushmita?
She's another person I haven't seen very much of. This is the role I think of when I think of her. I think
Same.
she's great. I think that there's the right amount of that character. I think that they have a good sizzle together. Um, I have to mention her outfit coordinated folders. I don't
Yes.
know who invented that, but it's so funny and so indelible to me that she's got a matching like paper holder for every very sorry. And I don't think anyone really comments on it. They're just there and I love it.
Yeah.
Um, I was threatening over the weekend to, make one of these to bring to this
Do it,
recording.
do it
I will after this, but a great way to
with
use up my scrap
glitter.
fabric. Yeah, I have plenty of stuff and my museum has lots of craft supplies. So I'm sure I could make one of these. I think she's lovely. I like that she kind of wrestles with the this is my student, kind of thing.
Mm, yeah.
And it's not taken too seriously because it's like everyone here knows what kind of movie they're in, but
Yeah.
I thought it's nice. She was falling into the category we've talked so much about with heroes, which is she doing organized movement or is she dancing?
Mm,
Because mostly she's holding a branch and gyrating.
yeah.
um which I
She's
guess makes,
shimmying.
yeah, and it kind of makes sense because that's mostly his imagination. Is it his
Yes.
imagination or hers? I think it's his,
His,
right?
I think, yeah.
So I think that makes sense. And then she does the moves perfectly fine in Gori Gori, and that's all she gets,
Mhm.
I believe, right? Because she
Yeah,
does not appear in the Kawali, interestingly.
yeah. I
So
mean, a little
I think
bit in the Kawali.
Oh yeah, a little
Just
bit.
tiny
That's
bits.
right.
It's
A little
mostly
bit.
Amrita Rao, but it's her. But
Yeah.
every time she does that like belly dancing move in the
Oh
Qawwali,
yeah.
I was transfixed. I was just like, more Sushmita. Apparently, Sushmita got this role because Farah Khan had choreographed her in that item number Mehboob Mere.
Hmm.
And she was so impressed with her that she offered her this role. And I've seen, I think, a fair bit of Sushmita movies. Again, not by choice, but because that's what was playing on TV. And
Yeah.
she's definitely not what I would call a very gifted actor.
No.
Having said that, this movie is perfect for her because she doesn't actually have to do a ton.
No.
She sort of just has to like waltz through the movie just being this absolutely gorgeous
Yeah.
muse-like person
Yeah.
and just, and she has this wonderful screen presence. Like the woman is a star. When she's on screen, you cannot look away from Sushmita Sen.
I was
But
trying to
yeah,
decide if I think that that character is written in a fairly limited way on purpose to be funny, so that we
yeah.
find that funny, or is that someone not giving enough weight to a female lead? I genuinely don't know. I
Mhm.
couldn't tell you. I could see it either way.
I think it's because it is a Shahrukh Khan show through and through, and
Yeah.
there's just so many characters. There's the
There are a
whole
lot of
like
characters.
yeah, there's Lucky, there's all the
Yeah.
teachers, including like Satisha and Bindu. It's just like a who's
Yeah.
who. Like all
Yeah.
I was missing was Archana Puran Singh. I was like, Archana Puran Singh should be here. She
Right?
should be one of the teachers. She should be
Yeah.
teaching something.
Yeah.
And so I think there was just so many characters in it that they probably just couldn't give her. I mean, for all you know, maybe she had more lines and they chopped it off or
And it would
something.
be right to focus on Sanjana instead of her if
Yeah.
if you had to make that choice, like that was done correctly, I think. And there's a couple little just tiny moments at the end when it seems like
Mhm.
Major Ram is leaving and they're kind of sitting together and one has their head on the other's
Yeah.
shoulder or whatever. I was like, that's cute.
It
So
was,
she
yeah.
doesn't have a ton to do, but I think she's cute. I do love when after he has to shoot the bad guy through her sari
Yeah.
and he says, sorry about the sorry, ma'am. And she goes, no problem. And I thought that was cute.
That was so cute. Also, I loved Kiran Kher and Lucky's house, like with the
Yes.
fireplace and everything. And again, I
Hmm.
know this is a movie, but I was like, how do you afford this house, lady? Like, it doesn't seem like Kiran Kher
Well,
does
and
anything.
tuition at that school is surely
Yeah,
extremely expensive, even in imaginary movie land. So
I know. But
actually,
it
I
was
know
like, but I
someone who
like
went
this
to
house.
that school, so I'll have to ask.
Nice. Um, is there did you like the whole like father sort of theme in this movie? Like Shahrukh
Ah,
and his father, and
sure.
then Sanjana and her father, and
Yeah.
then Lakshman and his father, who's also Shahrukh's
I
father.
find it a bit of a refreshing change from melodrama.
Yeah.
Not that I want to take women characters out of things, but I thought, well, and there is a mother in this film, obviously.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's good, and I think well, you come from the military family, so you tell me. I feel like the fact that they kind of touch on the tensions of between being in the army when you have a very regulated life and
Hmm.
then if you have some drama in your home life how can you walk that and whatever and I like that they touch on that. It's not the point of the
Yeah.
film, but that seemed good to me.
Yeah. And also Shahrukh in a Vardi always does it for me. So I was like, yes,
Right.
please. More Shahrukh in a Vardi. Yes. I actually want to create like a master list. Like I want to
You
create a Google
should.
Doc of all the films in which Shahrukh is in a Vardi. Even if it's just like a bit role, like in
Yeah.
army or something, even if it's
Yeah.
like a tiny little role, as long as he's in a Vardi, I will note that down. And then I want someone to make like an animated GIF or like a reel that just has shots of Shahrukh in Vardi because that is my jam. That is
Nice.
so good. So yeah. Um, what did you think? I know you said that this is like your favorite Farah Khan movie,
Mhm.
and I said that my favorite Farah Khan movie would actually be Om Shanti Om.
Mhm.
Why do you prefer this one to Om Shanti Om? Because I feel like when most people think of Farah Khan, Om Shanti Om is the one that really comes to mind, but possibly also due to
Sure.
Deepika, that being
Sure.
her big vehicle and all of that. Why
Yeah.
why do you prefer this to that?
Now, please put the major asterisk here. I have not seen Om Shanti Om in quite some time. But when I saw it in the cinema, there were
Mm.
so many of the references that I didn't get because I was still relatively new to Hindi films at that.
Mm.
So, and obviously Main Hoon Na has some of that too, but it's more, I believe it's more musical quotes than anything else. And you
Yeah.
could still enjoy that music even if you don't know what it is. And you can tell like, oh, this is from something else. But, you know, uh, so for me, I think the fact that I could get more of it right away probably has influenced my feelings about them. This really has made me want to go back and watch Om Shanti Om again. I mean, I have seen it multiple times, but it's been quite a while. So I also just think this one's really, really funny. And it is
Yeah.
not quite, there's a few things in Om Shanti Om that are a little cringy, which is obviously something we will
Mm.
associate with Farah Khan as her
Yes.
career goes on. I don't think there was anything in this that made me cringe.
Yeah.
And yes, cringe is a judgment, and that's just my opinion and whatever. But yeah, so I think for me, this one's just kind of more accessible and funnier. And the fact that it was accessible to me very early on, I
Yeah.
think was kind of formative or something. But also school movies are fun, and a prom is fun.
Yeah.
And I really liked, and I still like I very idealized India-Pakistan friendship overture, and like the fact that the camera actually gives you some time with these prisoners of war
Yeah. That was
for
sweet.
30
Like the
whatever years
hugs.
getting to trade places and
Yeah.
hug. I've been to the Wagah border. I've watched the
Yeah.
flag lowering ceremony, and like when you compare those two kind of border moments, like
Yeah.
I think I'm sure that this speaks culturally in some really resonant, even if just in wish fulfillment kind of ways. And I think that's important. And it's
Mhm.
nice that we have kind of, we show those parents and children getting to
Yeah.
reconcile along with Sanjana and her dad, and
Yeah.
those kinds of things. So
It
it's
also,
touching.
every like anytime I go to India and I read the newspaper, there's always at least one story of like a farmer or someone who just happened to meander across
Mm,
the border. Either way, it'll be like a
yeah. Oh
Pakistani
yeah.
person, or because it's really not that solid. It's not like there's
Sure.
a wall.
Right.
So it's
Right.
it's quite porous and a lot. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's literally just as like a shepherd or a goat herd,
Yeah.
and their goat just wandered off. And these are poor people. It's not like they
Yeah.
can just let the goat wander off. So they're like,
Right.
oh, let me just go get it. Except then the border security people are going to be like, who are you and what are you doing here? So
Uh,
it does also happen a lot where you're just wandering and you get caught and no one knows who you are. And people are not just going to let you go because they don't know who you are. So it was sad.
for a movie that has this plot line, I also, to me, it doesn't read as jingoistic at all.
No, it's
And I
not.
think that's quite remarkable to have any kind of
Yeah.
movie about a military force in any way dealing
Hmm.
with sort of national border issues and longstanding enmity issues, and for them
Hmm.
to be non
Yeah.
grossly patriotic is really quite
Yeah.
something. It
The
helps that
only
that's not
thing,
the whole point, of course, but
right,
like that's
right.
really nice. I think it's really nice.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't like about the movie, and it wasn't like a huge issue for me, I just fast forwarded. I felt like some of the action sequences were a lot. And I was like, can you please edit these? They were very long.
They have not perhaps aged super well. But
No.
again, I was trying to decide, do I think that when Shahrukh is like just flying horizontally, is that, are we supposed to think that's funny? Are we supposed to be
I think
impressed by the
so.
wire work?
I
I
think you're
I'm
meant to
gonna
chuckle maybe.
I think I'm gonna tip towards it's supposed to be funny because it's interesting to have a big dramatic action sequence with a moment of humor injected in
Yeah.
via the hero, not through like side guy or
Yeah.
wacky things in the control room or whatever, right? So I
Right.
kind of, yeah, but there were moments that some of those kind of took me back a little bit,
Yeah.
but yeah, they were a little long. I didn't really care, but they're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine.
Some of the scenes, like that was the only thing where I was like fast forwarding, where I was like, oh, this is still going on, like forward. And I remember having a thought to myself where I was like, okay, who is the editor? Because they could have chopped off like
Wow,
5 minutes. And then when I looked at the credits, it was Shirish Kundur, I was like, ah,
Mr.
there we
Nepo.
go. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to ask another person that I want to know how you think they did. Murli Sharma.
I thought it was good.
Me too. I'd forgotten he
Yeah.
had
But
such a
he's
big
always
role
good
in this.
though.
He is always good,
Yeah.
but I like this was a really good secondary character role. Like this is not a
Yeah.
tertiary quite character actor character. This is a fully
Yeah.
fledged character. And I was, since we had just talked about him, I was like,
I
oh
feel like the only person who did a bad job was Sunil Shetty, but also that is par for the course for
yeah.
Sunil Shetty.
Oof.
So it's fine.
Maybe he
I
was
also
told to do
love
that kind of like even kind of monotone thing that he was doing, or does he always talk like that? I don't
he
know.
always talks like
Okay,
that.
that's his thing.
He's just
He's
he's
very
just
bad.
bad.
It's
He's just
really
very
bad.
bad. He's a perfect example of how timing can make you a star, like being at the right place at the right time. Because when
Mm,
he debuted in the industry, it was definitely not Nipo Central, and there were a lot of opportunities for outsiders who did not have an ounce of acting talent to actually do something, which for the most part is good, but when it comes to Sunil Shetty is questionable. And so he did a lot of films, a lot of action movies, and
yeah.
basically became a star at a time when there wasn't a lot of competition.
If I recall, he's fun in A Gentleman, which is a movie I really liked.
The
He has a
Siddharth and
small role in there.
Jacqueline movie,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I've seen it once, but I don't remember Sunil
Yeah.
Shetty in it. Maybe
He's
I
he's
forwarded it.
yeah, he's a colonel kind of in the
Oh,
background of it. He's not in it a whole lot as I recall, but I was like,
okay.
bringing this sort of more elder generation gravitas to it. I felt like he did okay, but yeah, he's just
Okay.
not good at this.
Speaking of older generation, it made me giggle every time Lucky was like, Uncle, why don't you spend time with your people your age? Uncle, 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 uncle. I was like, Zayed Khan, you are now in your 40s also. Who's the uncle?
Wow, he wasn't then.
I know, but it just like made me giggle. It was also so funny for him to keep calling Shahrukh uncle. And I was like, and at one point he's like, bell bottom uncle.
Fair.
And then avoid Yaar. Like he had
This
some
is
really
the
good
movie
like
that gave
quips.
us Avoid Yar, which I say
Yes.
all the time, as you know. Like I just, put it on a shirt. I will wear it all the time.
Yeah.
Even if this movie gave me nothing else, it has given me Avoid Yar.
It has given you a void year. That was really fun too. Um, what do you think of? I know at some point we'll do an episode on Farah Khan, but
Sure.
as a director, how do you feel about her? Because she's pretty much only got 4 movies to her credit as a director.
Yeah. I feel okay. I feel a couple things. For
Okay.
me, they're very, Main Hoon Na and Om Shanti Om are great. Tismar Khan, I don't really have not walked away with anything other than Sheila,
Mm,
which no hints, no notes, like great, great, right?
yeah.
And I am clearly on record as not liking Katrina Kaif, but I think she's really good in that song. I think that song is wonderful. And then Happy New Year. I might rewatch it if you paid me, but probably not. Like
Mm,
it's just a nothing.
yeah.
So she has these two great films and then these two basically nothing films for me. So that's not a great rate. However, I do think that she is trying stuff, as I've said about other people, and I appreciate that she's got some vision and she's marshaling resources towards it and all that kind of stuff. She obviously gets great people to work with her, so
Mhm.
it's kind of I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Yeah.
Like that her second two films are really not as good to me. But if she makes another one, I will certainly be in line to watch it and um
I've sometimes wondered about because I feel the same way as you do. Actually, I have not seen Tismar Khan entirely. I saw it for like an hour and I got so irritated with it. And Akshay Kumar and Katrina Kaif are not enough to make me stick with the movie.
Sure,
It's like if after an hour I'm over it, I'm just gonna switch it off. So I've
sure.
never actually finished the movie, although of course I have seen Sheila Ki Javani like multiple times. And then Happy New Year, I hate that movie
It's not
mostly
good.
because the humor in that movie is very mean. It's
Mm,
coming from like a mean place. It's very fat phobic, it's sexist, it's so tacky. I absolutely despise that scene where they're clearly making fun of Saroj Khan. Like they have the
yeah,
choreographer
yeah,
and they there's like a close-up shot of her butt and she's shaking her butt and then she's like going towards them and they're like all terrified and I'm like really, like not only is that woman your senior in the industry. She is the one who paved the way for a woman choreographer. Farah Khan would not be who she is if it were not for Saroj Khan, who's sort of like the flag
yeah,
bearer. And also, you're not a size zero yourself. Not that being a size zero yourself makes it okay to make fun of someone, but like, why you gotta do that? Like,
yeah,
look for other sources of humor. And I'm also disappointed in Shahrukh because I'm like, you should do better. Don't indulge Farah Khan's nastiness or pettiness. Like,
yeah.
you're the Shahrukh Khan. You can
You
put your
could
foot
maybe
down.
stand up to her on that front.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so that's like the thing. One of the things I like about Main Hoon Na and Om Shanti Om, apart from the fact that they're just better cinema, is that yes, they're funny, but it's not a mean humor.
right.
You're not making fun of people. You're not punching down. You're not being petty. But Happy New Year just has so much cringy, like making fun of
Mm,
other people's stuff, and it's just mean spirited. And
yeah.
Tismar Khan I just couldn't finish.
Yeah.
So I have a theory, and you can tell me if you think my theory is ridiculous. I'm on record as being a gigantic, ginormous Shahrukh Khan fan, so I could be blinded by that. But my theory is that she makes better films when Shahrukh is her producer and main hero.
Mm,
Happy New Year being cringe is a different matter. But I feel like when he's in charge of it and it's his production and he's the star, I feel like it amps up the quality. Whereas with Tismar Khan, he was not involved in that. And so I think that's why it's bad. And then with
mm.
Happy New Year, I feel like it could have been better, but maybe he didn't have high enough standards. So I wonder to what extent her success as a writer and director has to do with Shah Rukh's involvement.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm giving him too much credit because
I mean,
I'm a
so
Shah Rukh
one
fan.
out of their three together is bad. So again, not a great rate, but it'd be
Not a
interesting
great
to
rate.
see
And
if
not that
any,
he hasn't done cringe stuff. He has as
right,
well.
right. Yeah,
So
but, hopefully they do something else sometime and we
yeah.
get another example out there. I mean, it's certainly a combo of people that I feel like a lot of us are interested in seeing work together again. So,
Yeah,
mm,
for sure. I
yeah.
think I believe I read that Aishwarya was originally offered the role that went to Surmita Sen,
I should be good at
but
that.
yeah, she'd be great at that. And I think she alluded to this movie in her interview with Simi Grewal, where she spoke about how she was dropped from 5 major film projects because Shahrukh was involved with them, and he kicked her out of these movies due to the whole Salman Khan situation. Classic example of blaming a woman
Oh, really?
for being in an abusive relationship. Yeah. So he kicked her out of Chalte Chalte because he was the producer. Aishwarya was kicked out of it and he offered the role to Rani Mukherjee. The other film mentioned was Main Hoon Na, Veer Zara, Paheli. There were a bunch of really plum
Ooh,
projects that Aishwarya lost out on because, of course, you're going to punish the victim for the crimes of her abuser. Even our Shahrukh does that.
that's super disappointing.
It's very
That is
disappointing. And
gross.
I'm glad that Aishwarya spoke out about it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Shahrukh and Salman are still the best of friends. So there's that. Never worship your heroes, Beth.
No, that's true.
No, never. I love Shahrukh, but I am fully aware of some of the questionable things
Ugh,
that he's associated with. Yeah,
ugh.
but she was originally meant to play the role of Chandni that was later done by Sushmita. I think she would have been great at that. But Sush was also fabulous.
Mhm. Let
Um,
us talk about the music.
It's so good.
It's so
Now, are you
good.
an Anu Malik fan or no?
Not really, but I mean, this is one of those, when I'm watching, I'm like, oh, that's right. He did this, didn't he? Like, huh.
It's surprising.
It's so good. Even if you take out the koali, it is so
Yeah.
good. It is so good. But with the koali, it's like 5,000% amazing.
Yeah. Every song is a banger. I think the only song that is not as catchy is the very last one
Mhm,
that plays during the credits, but
mhm.
otherwise every single song is amazing.
And even that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's cute. It's got the right tone, I think. Like, I'm not walking away humming it quite as much as the others, but I like it.
So, if you had to rank your favorite, which would be your favorite song in this? I know it's a tough question. It's
Ugh.
Sophie's choice.
I guess that it would be Tumse Milke.
It would be the Kawali.
It would, because without so this is the thing with Indian film songs, right? Do you think of it as a song freestanding, or do you think of it as what it is doing and how it works in the film on both fronts, both those standards or whatever? I love it very much. So
Hmm.
I think, but yeah, it's a close one with Charlie Just Say Hawaiian for me. I just love both those. But
Ah.
I think that koala is just everything. And I remember really liking it the first time I saw the film, even though I had no idea what it was referring to. I have some musical education. I was like, oh, this is clearly like an Islamic influenced sheets of
Yeah,
music, and like I could
like a
see obviously that,
Sufi.
yeah, and the dance style is clearly very different, and the fact
Yeah.
that there's the architectural setting and there's doves flapping around and like
Yeah.
and the instrumentation is different and all that
The
kind of stuff. So
feathers.
yeah, the feathers, like, so it's just such a gem. And the fact that this is basically the last great film Kawali we've had.
Yeah.
See our episode on Kawalis with Sujoy from Kandan Podcast. If you have not already watched that episode, we'll link it. Um, oh boy, what a
Wait, no,
song.
I wouldn't say it's the last great Qawwali because to me the last great Qawwali would be the one from Veer Zara, Aaya Tere Dar Par Deewana. Although that's like a sad Qawwali. It's like
And
sad
that's
and emo
yeah, the same
at the
year, right?
dargah. It's
So
not,
yeah,
yeah, it's not the
yeah,
same vibe. It's much
yeah.
sadder. But Shahrukh in a black kurta crying in the rain. Oh, tortured Shahrukh. I love it.
And the fact that this one is, kind of like done for fun, that it's pink, and that it's someone's imagination is really
Yeah.
cool too. Like that someone's dream sequence is this way because why not?
Yeah.
Why not
Why
have
not
your
have a fever dream?
50s, 60s, 70s influenced,
Yeah. You can
especially since
see the
old.
Nasir Hussain
Yeah. And since old
inspiration.
film music is used so much in this, like it makes sense that there would be a full-blown old film music style thing happening. I just think it's extremely creative
Yeah.
in every regard, like costuming, choreography, the way things are blocked, like the way you see, so often
Mhm.
in film koalas, the musicians are all flat on the floor, and this one they're
Mhm.
banked, so you can see them all. Like it's just
Yeah.
like all these little touches are
The
so,
set design,
yeah.
the costumes of this movie are so
Yeah,
wonderful. Like
costumes are
Manish
great.
Malhotra, a
Mhm.
lot of people, a lot of the crew on this movie was really firing on all cylinders and
Yeah.
they were just giving their all and not holding back, well, except for Sunil Shetty.
So I should take back my opening statement when I said maybe this is no one's best work but Farah's, but maybe it's a lot of people's best work, but not
Hmm,
all of the on-screen people. I don't know. I should walk back my statement, but
maybe.
yeah. So
Also,
what's your, go
okay,
ahead.
my favorite is the seductive number between
Sure.
them. Yeah, I love that one just
Also very
because
good.
like she just looks like such a million bucks. And
Yeah.
we've never really seen like Shahrukh and Sushmita together before and
Mm-mm.
after this. And I just feel like it's a little bit of a missed opportunity because they're just so good together.
I did have fun noticing how often she was like doing something to be not so much
Yeah.
taller than he is.
And lankier. It's not just that
So
she's taller,
lanky.
she's
Yeah.
all angles
Yeah.
and like she's such a long neck like a swan. He
Mm.
positively looks stocky in front of her and he's not stocky, but it's Sushmita Sen. Everyone's going to
Yeah.
look stocky in front of her. Um yeah. I was saying something and I lost my train of thought.
Oh
Um
dear.
I know. This is what happens when you record after work.
It's
Um
true.
Yeah, today was trying I finished work and then I was hurrying home to record and I stopped at Safeway because like I was out of bread and I tried to pay with my card. I kept inserting it and it kept saying not authorized. And I was like, why? And I was getting really irritated. And then I took my card out, I glared at it. I was trying to pay with my health equity, like my health savings card. That would do it.
That won't
So
work.
my health savings card does not think that a baguette counts as health. I would argue it
Boo.
does, but it wouldn't let me. And then I like
Boo.
actually paid with my Visa. And then I was like, okay, okay, I gotta get home and record. But anyway, that is why I lost my train of thought. Um,
Oh
yeah.
dear.
Do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. I mean, I was thinking, like, do I have some kind of overarching, like,
Mm,
summative, here's why this movie matters? And I don't
mm,
have one, but I do feel this
yeah.
movie matters, but also I feel like Indian cinema would get along fine without it.
Mm,
But I just genuinely find this film extremely fun. I'm sure everyone listening to us watching this video has seen the film probably multiple times. Um, it's just good fun, and there's enough little things in it that probably you will still notice a new one when you rewatch. There were a bunch of scenes in here I had forgotten about, mostly the things not said at the school, like the exchanges between among different army people, or
mhm.
something in the terrorists, always wet, always green lair,
Yeah.
but there's just enough little moments in this to
I bet they have
really add
mold.
up.
I looked
Oh,
at it and I was like, y'all should get checked for mold.
must be so moldy in there. And
So
also all that
moldy.
electrical equipment, like
Oh,
it's gonna get shocks and short circuits and everything. But
yeah.
yeah, I genuinely think this film is really fun. I'm very glad it exists. I'm happy that it's 20 and growing, it's a good time.
Yeah. I have 2 thoughts about Main Hoon Na. One is that I never hear anyone say that this is their favorite movie ever. I don't
Hmm.
even hear anyone say that this is in their like top 3 Shahrukh Khan films, even though like my entire friend circle is like mega Shahrukh Khan fans, but it never comes up. Um,
Huh.
and yet, no one ever criticizes it. So if you bring it up in
Hmm.
conversation, people are like, "Oh my god, yeah, that movie is so cute." But no one ever says like, "Oh my god, that is my favorite movie," or even that is my like in my top 3 Shahrukh favorite
Hmm.
movies. I feel like anytime Shahrukh's best movies come up, I'm always the one raising my hand and going Chak De India. There's always someone mentioning Swades. There's always someone bringing up Veer Zara. Then there's always the DDLJ people. But
Yeah.
this one never quite makes that rank.
Hmm.
But it's just like a really lovely, fun, sweet,
Yeah.
rollicking good time at the movies. And then the second point I have is I think this is actually a great movie to use as sort of like an introduction to Bollywood. So if right,
It's funny you say that because I was thinking I would probably not choose this as an introduction to Bollywood.
that is interesting. So I thought that I would recommend this over say something like Veer Zara because Veer Zara can be very draining.
Oh
I
yeah,
love
yeah,
Veer
yeah, for
Zara.
sure. Between
I
those two,
cannot
no
watch
problem.
that
Yeah,
movie
yeah,
over and
no
over. Yeah.
contest. Yeah.
Or even Om Shanti Om for that matter, even though it's a lot
Right.
of fun, it's a lot.
It's a lot of in
And
jokes too.
yeah, but this one's just it's like breezy. And yes,
Hmm.
there's like some serious stuff, but like Hindi movies always have some
Yeah,
seriousness, even in the breeziness.
yeah,
So I felt like this would be like a good introduction to someone who was like, what is a Bollywood movie?
yeah.
So I'm very surprised to hear that you do not think this
Yeah.
would be a good
Well,
introduction.
I don't think it's the worst by any means, but it
Okay.
wouldn't be something that would leap to mind for me immediately, although I'm sure people have done it. And
Hmm.
especially if you get people who like sort of High School Musical type,
Yeah.
not the High School Musical franchise, but musicals about, or if you like sort of school, again,
Yeah.
not high school, but anyway, um, it's the pom-poms. It's very confusing.
It's the
Uh,
cheerleaders,
yeah, I
yes,
mean,
which
my
we don't have in
university
India,
has
FYI.
Right.
We
My
don't have
university has
cheerleaders in India.
cheerleaders, so I don't know why I'm thinking this is high school. Um, the yeah, so it wouldn't be my first choice, but there are things I would most definitely not that I would avoid. I would avoid Yar far harder than this one. So
Oh, you would definitely avoid your Bhansali's Devdas. Actually, any flavor of Devdas.
any flavor of Devdas, and frankly, probably any flavor of Bansali. It's just it's a
Yes,
lot.
it's a lot,
But
and it's
also if
not
you
always even very good.
Yeah, if you're dealing with someone who likes a lot, then maybe that would be the right choice. But there's no one
Yeah,
blanket answer for that question. It really depends on
yeah.
the viewer.
Like, if someone came up to me and they were, like, non-Indian or even non-South Asian, and they were like, "My favorite movie and my favorite story of all time is Les Miserables," I'd be like, "Okay, I got some Hansali films for you then."
Yeah,
You know? Oh, I remembered the thing that my brain had
good.
forgotten. I was just thinking about Archie's and how
Same.
yeah, where
Yeah.
you have like the whole Riverdale vibe in like Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, and then of course in the recently released Archie's, which I hated. Um, to me, this felt so much more Archie's-ish. Vivek in particular reminded me of Reggie Mantle.
Sure.
And then Micro Mini, she was so cute. Rakhi Sawant was so
Yeah,
adorable in
she
this movie. She's
was.
just so pretty with like her lip gloss and everything. She reminded me a lot of what like Veronica would be like if Veronica was a little bit like airheaded and
Mm.
not as smart. Um,
And not a
and
main
then
character.
and not a main character. Yeah. So it gave me a very strong like Archie's vibe, and that is the Archie's vibe that I would enjoy more
Mm.
than the recent Archies that we saw. But yeah, the whole like set design and everything, it was very like very Riverdale.
Hmm.
What did you think?
Yeah, I just kept thinking about so again, my familiarity with the comics is limited. It was a long time since I looked at any of those, but I never really liked them very much as a kid. If I had to pick this or Archie's in terms of representing
Mm,
even more broadly, like stylized 50s high school, Americana high school, like,
mhm.
I don't know. I don't know that this one is breezier.
Yeah,
And there's something very appealing about that. Now, I'm not here to say that the Archie's comics are breezy. I have no idea. I can imagine they are. I just don't
they
know.
are.
So this, maybe this is it's not like the Archies, the recent film was unbreezy.
Yeah.
This is just so kind of buoyant and fluffy despite or candy floss despite there being a major army and whatever terrorism
Yeah,
plot subplot. Like, I don't know.
which
It's
is
very well
quite
balanced.
which was quite a tightrope to walk. I mean, can you imagine selling this as an idea to like a studio or like Red Chilies or
No.
whatever? Where you're like, so it's candy floss and very Riverdale, and there's all these like dum-dums in it, but they're very cute and funny and adorable and enduring, and we want to be their friends. And then there's also this like whole terrorism thing that's happening. And like, how about we make this movie? People will be like, no.
And we're going to kill the hero's father in the beginning, and then we're
Yes.
going to just, rend his family apart, and he's an orphan now, and da, 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 da. I will say, Main Hoon Na does not have roller skates, and it really seems like it should.
Yeah.
Very disappointed, Farah. If you could go back and put a roller skate song in, I would be. I mean, can't you imagine Chale Jese Hawaiian on roller skates? I
Yes,
can.
definitely. 100%.
Now,
Yeah.
to be fair, roller skating in Darjeeling is probably difficult because it's a lot of hills, and
Yes.
like once you start going down, it's going to be hard to stop. But I
Hey,
think
there's an actor in it flying like this. I
there
feel like
is.
that could happen. Yeah.
Physics is not at play here
No.
particularly.
There could also be like skateboarding. Was there ever a skateboard shown at any point in this movie? I feel like there should be.
Yeah, you'd think
I
there
feel
would be,
like Lucky would skateboard.
or one of the students would always have one.
Yeah.
Like the twins are always matching. Like there should be a
Yeah.
skateboard girl or something. I don't know. Yeah.
It was so funny, like, when I was watching this movie and I realized it's, like, 20 years old, I was thinking it would be so hilarious to find, like, the Instagrams of, like, the people who are just, like, the background dancers, like, the college students
Hmm.
slash dancers, and just see what they're doing. Like, they're a mom in, like, a tiny little town somewhere in, like, Missouri, and they have 3 children, and they pack that lunch dabba every day. And I'm like, I just wanted to know what they're doing now because they're
Yeah,
all now uncles and aunties.
they certainly are. They certainly are.
Yeah. Okay. Did you have any parting thoughts on Mehuna?
Everyone should say avoid Yar way more often than they do. It's
They
very
should.
useful.
And as Hindi film phrases go, we are much more pro avoid your than we are Tyag and Izzat. As you know, we hate
Yes.
those.
Yes. I did.
Avoid Tyag and Izzat.
I thought that I caught the word Tiag in here somewhere. Did you hear it?
I did not.
Maybe it was a different movie I was watching, but I thought it was this, and I was like, "Oh, Pidu's favorite word."
I must have blanked it out, or it must have been during the point where I was like fast forwarding the action
Well, or when
sequences.
or when like they found out who Ram really is, and he's blah blah blahing on about my father and blah 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 for the country, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but maybe it wasn't this film, but
Oh, that
yeah,
moment where Ram like dodges Satish Shah's like saliva output, and then Bindu is just like that is like the movie Matric. I think she called Matrix Matric or something like
yeah,
that. I was
yeah,
like, yes, it actually is. Yeah.
yeah.
Bindu was cute in this movie with like her
She's
little
cute.
knitting needles and everything.
Yeah,
And then she knits him a sweater at the
cute.
end.
So cute.
I was like, of course she knitted him a sweater. How adorable is that? Awesome. Well, I think that concludes our episode of Mehuna. Oh, I have another funny thing. So I saw Mehuna in the movie theater in Niles in Chicagoland at the Niles Big Cinema, which at that time was the only theater that would show Indian movies, and
Mm.
it was owned by Reliance. So it was they would have an interval, and the interval was recorded in some American man's voice, where it would be like, the interval will end in so and so minutes. It was one of those like pre-recorded things.
Yeah.
And then they would just like record the name of the movie. And that is a theater that I went to a lot. So I've heard that man's voice a lot. And so I remember he kept saying, Main Hoon Na will resume in 5 minutes. Main
That's funny.
Hoon Na. He kept saying Main Hoon Na. And I think I saw this movie with a friend, and a friend and I kept calling this movie Main Hoon Na. So even this time, when I was like, oh, we're doing an episode on this at work, someone was like, oh, you have to hurry home to record your podcast. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, what's the movie? I was like, Main Hoon Na. So I wonder where the Niles Big Cinema
Where
dude
are you,
is.
sir? Where are
Where are
you?
you? How do you feel about
This
Main
little
Hoon
confluence
Na?
of Illinois-based Hindi film watchers wonders where you are.
Exactly. All right, well, that concludes this episode of Filmi Ladies. Thank you so much for watching or listening, and we will see you next week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
And remember, no saluting.
Yes.